Good evening, everyone. I hope you all had a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. We were so busy here in the collectively Rewilding garden. So what we're going to do is continue to work towards these big raised bed builds that we're working on. And we did work, excuse me, we did work on that this weekend. I didn't think to have these up. I should have already had these pictures up for you guys. And so this is the whole process, the whole shebang, but this is the goal that we got to. And it just perfectly delineates the raised beds. And I am sharing my screen, right? It's doing something super weird with the Zoom. Okay, there we go. And these are the two raised beds that we're going to start with in the front. The potager is the end goal. However, it's big. So the potagers would not only have this much just for two of them, they'd also have an additional something like 3x3 square out here. And so that's a whole nother bed that you're basically building when you put two of them together. So we're going to start here where we can start out in the front, get it completely done. And anyone that I want to show for the consults, they'll be able to see it right there in the front. We'll do the front half as ornamental plants and the back half as productive, but still tending towards a more ornamental looking plant, if that makes any sense. Some cherry tomato vines are really pretty. Squash plants can be really pretty. Herbs or things of that nature. There are types of cuneiform vegetables that's like broccoli and cauliflower that they grow as look at me plants in designer beds on businesses and things. So there's certainly a lot of showy vegetables that can be even included on the front half, right? And I did all of this and I got it all mapped out, and my map is right here. And I took it to ChatGPT and Gemini and asked for a more accurate, and I think I can show you guys that as well. I think it's going to be in pictures in my scans. And so this will show you a little bit better what we're actually showing there with that paper. And I had a rough draft that was all messy, and I tried taking that to ChatGPT and Gemini, and they just gave me these like hallucinated maps that had nothing to do with the actual property. So I went and I did a much more formalized, very clear, clean sketch, and they still couldn't do anything with it. So I was a little bit disappointed with that, but this is basically it's almost to scale. This side should be a little bit longer. And I think that's really about it. And I made these actually a little bit bigger than what they would be to scale, but in the yard, they seem so much bigger than that. So it's just all about perspective and getting that visual image of where those beds are going to be for me is just really helpful to planning it out even, right? And so those are some steps that you guys can take. And then let me just make my, okay, so I have to minimize this apparently to be able to do that. So it will work with me here. Okay, I guess what I just need to do is this. And then if you look behind me over here, see that I have a bunch of seed packages, some little jiffy pots with soil in them already. These seed packages are the seeds that we will be starting in the jiffy pots as seedlings. And those that are in that box back there are the ones that are going to be directly sown. So that is something that we can definitely help you guys out with. If you pick out plants that you want to do, then we can go over them so that one, you know, these are my cool season fruits and vegetables as well as flowers that I'm going to be dealing with. And then once I've gotten those out and they're really established outside, that's when I'm going to start looking at making plans for my warm season, getting seedlings started, picking all the seeds out, actually then separating them from those that can be directly sown and those that need to be started indoors as seedlings. And then you're going to transition again for most of us into a cool weather. Some people have enough of a hot weather period to specifically focus on hot weather plants as well, such as things like eggplant and some of the trees actually that Candace talked about. I believe he mentioned jujubes, and I think that those are one that need a pretty hot temperature, right? And so there are all these different things. And for those of you who are wanting to garden in the spring, this is definitely the time to be looking at getting your seedlings begun and all of that wonderful, fun research between what is cool weather, what is a warm weather, if you have that hot season, what are your hot weather vegetables, and what is directly sown and what will need to be going out as seedlings. Okay, let's go ahead and jump back in and head into our garden planner. I don't think we even did our last checklist for January because there has just been so much going on. So we're going to jump down into February, and we have our beautiful little overview. I encourage you all to just kind of jump in, check that out, see what you've got going on. And oops, let's make these visible. Now you all have access to those February weekly checklists. And so let's jump in. And this is where I definitely will start being able to test out what's here in the months against what I'm actually doing and what you guys are actually doing to find out if we need to modify these lessons, right? So week 1, you are going to be looking at your garden layout. That's a really good thing to do, definitely. Excuse me. Week 2, soil and site prep. Absolutely, that's great. That's actually what we did yesterday, partially. And then you have herb propagation and trees and things, and garden design and water management. So what that lets me know is we definitely need to add in the idea that this is a good time to be getting those seedlings started, right? Along with your soil prep. Getting the soil prep should be because you're getting these seedlings going, and they're going to need to have a home alongside those that you directly sow. So I will add that to a chore list somehow. One of these pages are going to work. Okay. So we need to add start seedlings. There we go. That's how we can easily say it. To February. Okay. Because the first day of spring, and let me just check for spring. I went and had to look for the fall equinox, and it threw me. It was on the 23rd of September. So our spring equinox this year is on a more typical 20th. And for many of you, you're going to be wanting to start as soon as you can just get the seedlings going, really, right? Much less the 20th of March. For myself, for Benny, and probably for those of us that regularly join in, that's the 2 of us, we're still waiting a little bit. And so the end of our frost period is somewhere around May to June, depending for each of us. And if we just go and pull up those personal reports, let's do Benny's. I know mine in my head. I don't have mine fully fleshed out. Jump into the garden challenge. And this is exactly what we want to do. Your last spring frost, Benny, is around May 2nd. And I think that's really close to what we are here in Tooele. So we need to have our stuff ready to go right around the beginning of May. And so if we take one of the packages, say this really pretty Swiss chard, isn't that so gorgeous? And it's going to take 60 days to maturity. With Swiss chard being a cooler weather plant, that means that you want to have it done before the temperatures and, oh goodness, let me go get my work book over here really quickly. Before the temperatures reach I want to say in the upper 60s or so. Let me look at what we are doing here. It's going to be in the beginning. And that's, sorry guys, I know that's not the most fun to look at. I've stepped into another workbook, so my recollection of exactly where things are and the ordinary thing, the initial one, rough. But it really matters for what we're talking about right now. And I just about got in there. It's also harder when it's in a home printed book than in a book that was formally published. Really didn't skip it. It's either further on or I skipped it. But there's a place where it walks us exactly through what the seasons are. There we go. Okay. So for the cool weather plants like Swiss chard, you want to be done when the temperatures are consistently starting to go up to 65 and warmer. All right, these aren't going to do as well. They're going to start bolting and going to seed. Their temperature, their flavoring is going to change because they are starting to process into flowering and seeds. And so you want to have that done right around when temperatures are getting to about 65 or a little bit higher. You want your cool weather plants to be finalizing. And so when you're still able to get a frost, it's still staying around that 65 because it can easily dip down. So we're looking at our cool weather plants being done probably towards, let me just see for myself, the end of April at the latest. So we really want to get those vegetables started and into the ground as early as possible. So if we want to be having our cool weather vegetables done by the beginning of May, somewhere around there, that means for 60 days, we want to start our seedlings at least by, let's see, the beginning of February, right? February, March, and then you have April. That's your window. So that's why it's imperative that for Benny and I, we go ahead and get these started. For you guys that are in the warmer zones, you may need to go ahead and get seedlings and not start the seeds indoors because pushing towards that 65 is going to be a lot earlier for you. And so we can check in Ken Dez's report. He's got that all pulled out there for his area. And see where he's at for temperature wise. All right. And so by May, you're already hitting 81. You want to be done by the end of March at the latest. And so we're already at February. That only gives you about 60 days. So that's why at this point, if you want to have something like broccoli or Swiss chard or the cabbages, the flowers like poppies and lavender, things like that, you may need to go ahead and get seedlings from your local gardening store or your local CSA, something like that. You can direct sow things already. You can already put things like beets and carrots and radishes and onions right into the ground. You could do it with the bigger plants as well, but the thing is it's going to get too warm to let them fully reach maturity that you want to see. And then was somebody about to ask a question?
Oh no, I was like, what? I can already put beets in the ground?
Yeah, you can. See, your cool weather vegetables like from 35 to 65. So in January, you have this January to March window. So that's what really would be ideal is if you started your seedlings for the bigger plants, like a cabbage, on January 1st. for things you can direct sow, and these are the ones that I'm going to direct sow. Spinach, carrots, strawberries. When you direct sow them, they take 2 years for production, just so you guys know, but I'm going to take the seeds I have and put them out where I want my strawberries. I'm going to do calendula. That's different than marigolds. Marigolds and calendula are two different flowers, so they're very close in relation. Mustard, onions, radishes, echinacea, and beets. Those are the ones that I will be direct sowing. And so you guys can put anything like that into the ground. Like you could get done with class tonight and you could go out and direct sow some of those things right now.
Mm.
As warm as things have been, I might could do that too. I'm questioning inside my head what I'm going to do because it was 50 degrees today. If you I don't have it in here, but when I look at mine in February, our high should be 41. We reached 50 degrees today on February 2nd. So
Well, I
I'm
mean,
not
we
sure exactly what to do.
have some what they call Georgia weather, where in the mornings it's like minus minus 800 degrees and everything's frozen, and then by the daytime it's back 80 degrees. So
So your lowest is January and it's 33 degrees. So you're never gonna you didn't even reach freezing, right? Technically, things can freeze at about 38. You can start having snow and things like that, but at 33, you're not technically at freezing, which is 32. So we
because
actually get to negative temperatures. I actually know what that feels like. So
you
to
said
you, I guess 33 feels like negative temperatures.
it feels like negative 800 in the morning. I don't know.
It's brisk. It's just going to help you wake up and get going, right? Yeah, school time getting going is cold wherever you are, what you're accustomed to in the winter, it's cold. I hear that. But yeah, no, you are in this ideal time from January 1st through March. In fact, you could technically start your cool weather plants in October and then just continuously seed them, replacing them through March. You have a 6 month cool season. Does that make sense? Or
Mm.
5 months, where you want for your first month out of the 3 month periods, you are still a little warm at 72, but you get your seedlings started and then you're ready to bring them out. And you need to have them in the coolest place in your house possible, or they're not going to germinate until more like November, December. But you can get 2 rounds of cool season plants in the cold part of your year.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hmm.
And so that's why we're doing this, guys, and really fleshing out our areas. Every one of them is unique, but you want to know your area. It's interesting to hear all the differences, and we'll talk about that in class. But the part for each of you to hold on to is your specific round of seasons. So for myself, I can do a period of hot, but you can easily do a period of hot. Again, you almost have a 5 month period for hot weather, like eggplant, tomatillas, things like that. And then your warm weather is March pushing May. So you want to have your cool weather things finishing up by the end of March, really. And then your warm weather things you want to put in at the beginning of March. You want to start your warm weather seedlings, peppers, tomatoes. All right. And then you want them in the ground in about April. A little, really, you could technically start your warm weather vegetables now. You could start your tomatoes in the house. Okay. Tomatoes, peppers, things of that nature. You could start in the house right now. And if you guys like, let me just go grab my warm weather seedlings because I've already gotten those planned out as well. And I'll tell you what those are. All right. So for the warm weather, I'm going to be doing the sour gum in my buns because that's what they do typically when they create these buns in Africa, they use sour gum. And so I just wanted to play with that traditional element there. The cucumbers and I think this is mustard. Mustard can kind of be in either of them. I think I have a mustard over here as well. Maybe not. Maybe I have my savory. So mustard is a warmer weather green like Mizuna. As your spinaches and your lettuce heads and things like that, it's becoming too warm, they're starting to bolt or go to seed, then that's when you can bring out things like mustard and Mizuna.
Hmm.
I don't know why my broccoli is over here either. That's really weird. That should be over here. Okay, so cilantro, that's warm weather. The pansies, aren't they pretty? They're black, solid black pansies. I haven't gotten any to go yet. I'm going to put them in containers this year, though. And then cauliflowers should be a cool weather as well. But you have marigolds, peppers, peas, fennel, oregano, speedwell is a flower, another cilantro, kohlrabi. There's another type of mustard, your watermelons, tomatoes, turnips, nasturtiums, tomatillas, right? That's kind of pushing into the hot. Your foxgloves, your sunflowers, your pumpkins, your zucchinis, your squashes. Those are all your warm weather plants that you could start as seedlings right now. And so things that you could start in the ground would probably be the mustard, the speedwell, perhaps, the cilantro, certainly, the peas you could start outside. You could technically, it's warm enough that you could just start all of yours outside and not even worry about doing those inside, because right now at February, you're already at 58. So yeah, for just a little bit, once your temperatures start pushing 65 though, that's where there's warm weather vegetables like to be. 65 to 85. All right. So definitely, if you want to do your own tomato seedlings, pepper seedlings, this is for Candace, Vanessa, Wendy when she's here. I know let me see who else is here with us today. Tammy, let's look at yours though, because yours can be a little specific too with the desert weather, but I'm guessing that you're more towards that as well, Tammy.
Oh, it's warm right now.
Warmer than it probably should be. But your
Yeah,
typical season,
February is
yeah,
really cold.
you're ready. Like at this point, you could start putting tomatoes in the ground
Yeah.
outside. You don't even have to do them as seedlings. You can start seedlings because you're going to stay there long enough that you can do it however you want. You could start some as seedlings and start some in the ground and see which works better, right? Like you can play with it a little bit, but you also want to be thinking more towards your warm weather plants, not the cooler weather plants. Your cool weather is really tight. It's from November through January. So November, you have to start your cool weather seedlings so that you can get them in the ground in December, and they can be finishing up January, pushing into February just a little bit. All right. So see how it's so distinct for each of us? And Tammy gets the hottest of all, but she gets about as cold as Candace, right? But she's seeing these 100 temperatures, where the rest of us aren't really seeing that, I don't believe. Let's check out. Yep. See? And for Benny, gotta go down. Oh, no, we gotta go back up for that one. He barely hits 85 in July, right? And so then I think I have, and Candace. Candace is here too. Let's check hers out. Hers is going to be more towards that constant growing ability. Oh, we haven't done yours yet, Miss Candace. We need to fill in your high and low temperatures, the precipitation, and the seasons, but we can do that because we did the garden challenge. We just have to take the time to get in there. So let's check this out. And so you stay a little bit cooler. You too can start your cool season veggies right now. Okay, so you're more with us, but it's just more moderate, but you too will be. So Tammy, Kendez, Vanessa, of us that are here tonight, you would be starting warm weather seedlings. For Benny, Candace, and myself, we're going to be starting cool season veggies. All right, so any questions about that? Did that help you guys really, how shall I, stand firmly knowing that you have control over what you decide to do or not do as far as your garden efforts right now that have the high likelihood of success?
So I'll go ahead and start my warm weather stuff inside.
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
My cold weather stuff outside.
Yeah. Let's go take a quick peek at yours again. So for cool weather, because we're right here, 58. Yeah, yeah, you can, but they're going to have a hard time finishing out. So if you want cool season vegetables, you might consider going and getting them from a place that's growing seedlings. You can still sow the stuff that's supposed to be in the ground, right? So let's just check out my butter crunch lettuce. That's a pretty common vegetable. It takes 65 days. So you can absolutely get that lettuce in the ground today, and before it bolts, you'll be able to harvest it. Plenty. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't take the 90 days. So let me look at the cabbage. Oh wait, no, that's rouge. Their lettuce. Where my cabbage is at? Where's the cabbage? I think they take longer. Yeah, a little bit, 75 days. But that's half a month more, right? So this, if you wanted a cabbage, you would want to buy a seedling to have the highest chance of success. It might work out, it might not at all because of the time of the year already for you.
Okay.
Is that, are you solid? Are you clear with where you're at seasonally?
Mm-hmm. So I got 3 months, 90 days.
You don't have 90 days left of your cool season. You have about 60 days left of your cool season.
60 days, 30 days, maybe 60, 30 to 60.
Well, cool stays up until 65 and consistently through March. It can be a weird year, but typically your high in March is 65. So that's ideal. So they can even maybe creep a little bit into April, especially if you do things like provide shade and, you know, all that season extender thought process.
Okay. Cool.
But here we are in February, and when one season is ending, the cool is ending at 65, that's because the warm season is beginning. Okay. So you can start your warm weather seedlings inside today and plant them on March 1st and have 2 good months to bring those to fruition. And April is when you'd want to be planting your eggplants and your tomatillas for your hot season. Okay. Do you start seeing how that works, guys? A month before you want it in the ground, you need to start any seedlings. Really, guys, I feel like you're hesitant on this. Anyway, ask me any questions, because if you ask a question, you can prompt me to say it in a way that maybe you'll more readily follow where I'm walking.
Well, are there any of the things that I had on my to-do list considered cold weather plants?
Let's take a gander. That's day 5. Oh, let's do this because we could just jump there. We're at day 5. Spinach is cool weather, but you can plant it in the ground. Beets, I thought were cool weather. They're not. They're warm weather. So this is when you want to start those in the house. Oh, not beets. You want to sow those directly. So I think you should be able to sow those directly now. Let me look at this here, Georgia. Yeah, March to June is when you can sow. So you want to, in a month, sow your beets in the ground, because they only take 55 to 60 days. That you can't start them as seedlings because they're a root vegetable. They don't transfer well because you damage the root, and it's all about the root. So they have to be direct sown, like carrots and radishes, right? Carrots and radishes are your cool weather vegetables, but they have enough time. You can go start those tonight, and they're going to have enough time to get to fruition.
Okay.
All right. Anyone else? Really, this is a really important part when we talk about this year, walking through these steps together to have our most successful garden ever. This is a big part of that success right now, understanding that timing with your cool to warm to hot to cool. Well, for some people, it actually goes cool, warm, hot, warm, cool. For many of us, for Benny, he has cold, cool, warm, no hot, cool into cold. All right. Each of us have our own set of cycles for our area. And I really hope that you guys are understanding what your set of cycles are. It's fun to hear about everybody's, but understand your own. All right, this is like where I always say, so everybody's solid. They have no questions. They're just ready to go out and plan. They know exactly what they need to do.
Yeah, I need to go get some spinach seeds. And
yes, you do. Spinach, carrots, radishes, lettuces.
mm-hmm.
If you want a cabbage or a broccoli or a cauliflower, you're looking at seedlings, right?
Are those like shallow rooted type of deals?
Compared to a beet or a carrot.
Beets are deep root?
I mean, dandelions are deep rooted. Their tap roots go 50 feet. In the end, that's not the important part about it. The important part, when you look at a plant, what you see above the soil is typical to the size and somewhat the shape of what you can see below the ground. So as above, so below, where you see those pictures of the trees and then it's like mirrored. Well, that's because to some degree, it is mirrored underground with the shaping and the depth compared to the height. That's why when we look at our potted plants, when we look at something like this, all right, when our plant has reached something that's about the same size on the top as what you have as your container, it needs to be transplanted. So you can correlate that to your plants in the ground. Now, they have more freedom. And so as a good example there, we have in our front easement between the city street and the sidewalk, where it's really the city property, but our responsibility to maintain it, we have these two trees. The exact same type of tree grows for the folks across the street. But this is really rocky ground. And apparently, excuse me, underneath our trees, there's a lot of rocks. They're not getting very big. I could walk out and chop that thing down with an axe, no problem, in like 15 minutes, and I've never cut down a tree with an axe before. They are not getting big. Their root ball is being constrained by the rocks, similar to what you have with a container. The tree across the street, however, is not as rocky, at least in that location, and their tree is something like 5 or 6 times the size of our little tree, and their root ball will be correspondingly bigger like that. Does that help you to envision what you're asking, Kendez?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other questions, though? Like Kendez, he's knowing his region. I'll tell you, he knows what he's got going on over there. Do you all feel as confident knowing where you're at, where you are?
Kinda.
Kinda.
Awkward. How silent? Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, maybe. Kinda, maybe. Yeah.
So remember, we were talking about you being ready for that warm season as well. Oh, that's Candace's. So right now, you are already at like the peak of what cool weather season plants like. You're 2 degrees below it. So
Okay.
next month is going to be too warm. So for you outside, it's already too late to do anything unless you're going to do some major shade protection and it's like on the coolest part of your house and some different things, right? So you
Yeah.
really are looking to start your warm weather seedlings.
Like jalapenos, peppers.
Jalapenos, squashes, zucchinis, okay?
Ooh,
You're
cool.
starting those seeds
Eggplant.
right now to go outside. Eggplant is a hotter weather plant. it's going to be wanting to get started in April. The beginning of April is when you would want to start your eggplants, your tomatillas, things like that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I eat eggplant, but I was just wondering. I know you said it was like a hot one, so
Yeah.
yeah.
But right now you're working on your warm weather. All right.
Yeah.
And
Like
so,
cucumbers, right?
yes.
Broccoli, I think.
No,
Cabbage,
broccoli
right?
is for
No?
cool weather. So, and I'll just show you. Let me stop my share for 2 seconds so you can actually see the seed package. But it even says it right here. Cool season.
Okay.
Most
Depending on
greens are a cool season. An
okay.
exception is Mizuna, mustard, and there's one other that Nicole recommends. Let me just get these out of our way here. It might be in this section right here.
How about potatoes?
Potatoes are tending more towards a hot weather plant.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to find that. So for right now, what it is they're a really long one. Okay, so you start them with your warm weather, but they're going to go longer. They take up to 120 days to fully mature. So even though you start them now like you would a warm weather, whereas an eggplant you would start in April for you, Tammy, you would go ahead and start your seeding for your potatoes, your sweet potatoes, your yams. And what that means is each little eye of a potato or a sweet potato or a yam has the potential to grow a sprout out of it. And so you want to put your seed potatoes or whatever type that you're doing into a cool place that will generate that sprout, right? We've all had it with our potatoes where we're like, oh, it's no good anymore. It's got too many sprouts. Like 1 or 2 little baby sprouts coming off, you could probably still eat. But once it's got 3 or 4 well established, it's going to be too mushy, right? Okay, so once it has those established sprouts on your potatoes, yams, and sweet potatoes, you cut them into sections where there's some potato for each sprout, but that will make that many different plants, all right? And that's, you want to plant those in a month in your location, like a warm weather plant. However, it's going to go for 120 days. So it's going to push into that hot weather. It's going to go through all of the cool weather, or all of the warm weather where you would start it now. And you don't put potatoes, sweet potatoes, or yams in a seedling situation, a seedling setup. They need to go directly into the ground, and they need a mound to grow on. And you don't ever really put anything else with them. They're like an all by themselves kind of a plant. And you put them in at the beginning of next month for you, Tammy, in March. And they're going to go all the way through your cool weather, which is, or your warm weather, excuse me. Oh my gosh, we're jumping seasons. All the way for Tammy's warm weather, which is going to be March, April, and May. And then they're going to continue through into your hot weather in June because they're 120 days to full maturity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was just watching a lot of YouTube when people like start doing their February seeds, and some people were saying they're growing broccoli, and I was like, oh, okay, must be a different.
The cool weather. Because
Yeah,
you're abnormally warm compared to what we consider temperate seasons, like the traditional, right? You have your spring, summer, fall, and winter as snow and things like that. When we think of like the idyllic American thought process that goes back to like 50s thoughts, right? And snow is always a part of that, okay? But you don't have that. You don't have that snow almost ever.
never.
So you don't follow the so-called traditional planting phases because you're ahead of us weather-wise. So mine is more so-called traditional. Benny's is more so-called traditional. We're starting our cool weather seedlings now. You're past cool weather. You're in the last month of cool weather. You already needed to have those in the ground. This needed to be the month where you're harvesting and harvesting and harvesting from them. So instead, you start your warm weather seedlings, and then come March 1st, you can direct sow for things like carrots and radishes, and you can take out your broccolis and, or, oh my God, excuse me, I keep switching seasons. You start your tomatoes and your peppers, your jalapenos, all of those things, the cucumbers right now. And then March 1st, you can take those and put them in the ground along with something like a beet that is direct sown. I'm sorry. I jumped around a little bit there. Do you know where you're at?
Yeah, I do, Sabrina.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
All right. And so everybody's pretty solid with their location for what they should do if they want to get plants in for your location right now. Everybody knows what is good for you to do at this moment.
So for me, I got to start doing the seedling for the cold season.
Yes, exactly. Right along. You and I are on the same path. Candace, I think Candace is along there with us. Let's jump back in. Candace kind of is like this bridge in the middle, but I do believe that she is right there with us. So February 36, 43, 54. Yep. And Candace's can push a little bit into April. Because now let me jump back here where we were. Your cool starts at 35. So you are already there, but it ends at 65 and your high is 61 in May. So you have this nice little breathable window where you could maybe do 2 rounds if you set yourself up right, which would mean next year in January, you'd want to start your first round of cool weather season plants, put them in February 1st. They're finishing up through March, but you've already started your second round in February so that then you put it in and they're finishing up by April. Does that make sense, Candace? The difference for your area?
Yes, ma'am.
So you could have, we're not prepped this year, right? But next year, if you start your first round of cold weather seasons in January, you could be putting them in tonight and starting your next round of cool season. So you still get do a cool season, start those right now along with Benny and I, and you have cool season. All right?
Yes, ma'am.
Very cool. I love this, guys. This is just so interesting to me, and I really do love watching the differences as we go through each of these steps, each of these pieces to our gardens. It's so neat to see what each person is doing at their different location. So thank you, guys. Any other questions? We can jump back in and look at that weekly checklist again. This is where you're really doing that planning that we've been talking about. And so you can jump into week 1 here, all right? And then you can get the grids, the templates, and you can get your notes all right here. If you'd like to print anything up to start having something that you're writing on physically where you are, all of these are here for you to start tracking what you're doing. And whether you do it with this or just a simple spiral bound notebook, I do recommend you start taking notes. Okay, so these are the plants that I started tonight in my seedlings. So that I wanted to try to do that yesterday, but we had our compost heap in the old raised bed that they have here. It's only raised up by about, 4 inches at most. We had our compost heap out there because I want to do much deeper raised beds in different locations that get better sunlight, etc. But right now we're going to work on that first garden and getting the boundaries in for our potager in the background. And we still want to garden this year. So we took all of our compost out of those 2, left any soil that had been generated, and created a new compost heap. And now we have a place where we can take these seedlings and actually garden this year while we're still trying to move more towards the presentation that the consults will be, right? I can help anyone from in-ground all the way up, but that is the primary feature. This area is really, really tremendously difficult to garden in ground. So especially here, that raised bed is darn near a necessity. And so these are here though for you guys to keep track of what you're doing. If you do the templates, you get to cut these out and you can manipulate them. Maybe you didn't want like a heart, obviously, right? It was just something that I could put in there, but you might want something that's a little blip out and you could cut it off, or you could double it and then have something that was like a little 4 square almost, right? You can do a lot of different things. These are the more natural. These are your more in-ground. You can move the little containers around. You can get a bigger sheet and use these as smaller pieces. You can expand these, right? Like if you do something, you can do your own where you make a really big one, where you copy out exactly what you want as your shape. These are just to get you going, to see the different types of beds and pieces that you could do. All right. This is your planning time, as well as getting the building blocks begun so that once your plan is complete, those blocks are there to begin the building with of the plan that you formalize through this month or so. All right. A lot of fun. I think this is a really fun time of year. I hope you guys have a lot of fun with it too. Definitely do be thinking about your site prep alongside your seedlings. That's what we were out there doing. We got all the compost out, and then we added down all not the compost, the pieces that were still composting, and left behind the actual compost that was soil, and then added all the other bagged soils that I had from various projects on top of it. And I went and got a little bit more. We added one bag that was bat guano and worm castings. And we're going to get at least 2 or 3 more bags per side for this double little raised bed that's back there. And that's our site prep. And so for what you want to do, even if it's for, say, Vanessa, you want to do container gardening because you're still just not sure where you're going to be, finding that best location where you're at to put your containers. What plants do you want? When do they need to start? Just like for us, you need to start your seedlings, right? Even if they're going to stay in that container. And so you're going to be more towards Kendez as timing. We don't have your pieces to where I can just pull it up, but you can think along the lines more of Kendez. So you're going to be wanting to look at your warm season vegetables already. So if you want to try another pepper or a tomato in a container, you need a bigger container, and they need at least to be fully fruiting, they need 8 hours minimum sun. They'll fruit, but they'll be less productive. But you need that 6 to 8 hours, 6 absolute minimum. 8 is really more their preference, and they can have a little bit more than that. But you also want to watch your heat. They can get sun scald, they can burn, different things. So all of these different pieces, but with you not knowing where you're going to live, get the bigger containers or pick smaller fruits and vegetables. And we can absolutely talk about that on Thursday if you'd like to discuss something for your situation where you want to be able to do some gardening, but you want it to be something you can manage, and it has to be in containers. All right. All right, guys, let's just jump into that calendar there. Wow. And we will be back together this Wednesday for How To's Community Outreach. And that is going to be at 2 o'clock p.m. Pacific, 3 o'clock p.m. Mountain, 4 o'clock p.m. Central, and 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you guys all there. And I hope you all have a simply fabulous week. Please feel free to unmute and say goodnight, everyone.
And I have a question.
Oh, please, go ahead, Candace.
Well, we'll talk about where to sell some plants, because I have a bunch of these heavenly bamboo things, and apparently people buy them, but I don't know where to sell them. What people buy.
That's definitely, or if you're able to join us for Wednesday, that's like the perfect topic for that class, and we can go over that for sure.
Wednesday? What time Wednesday? Because I don't ever see anything over Wednesday.
Yeah, that's what we were just talking about. Oops, I'm going to the wrong areas here. You jump back into the calendar. That's How To's for Community Outreach. And you're in Central Time, yeah?
I'm in Eastern Time.
Eastern. So that's going to be at 5 o'clock for you on Wednesday.
Okay, I can make 5 o'clock.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a really good conversation to have there. And because it will need to do research. I can tell you what it is for here, or for Cortez, or places I've lived in California or Idaho, but not for where you are, right? So we can definitely dive into that this Wednesday.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I hope you all have a wonderful week.
You too.
Thank you. See you guys tomorrow
Good night.
and Wednesday.
Bye.
And all of it. Good night, guys.